The first thought was that this was a very impressive journal, and I was following in the footsteps of Ray Elliott, who was a man with a very inclusive and broad view of philosophy, and somebody who had been very helpful and supportive to young writers. So the first thought was about not dropping the baby. And in many ways, the journal has always tried to signal continuity as well as developing in new directions. We started to open up conversations with Blackwell, and immediately we realised that they had some very interesting ideas about how the journal market would change under the influence of the new electronic media, online publishing and so on. They were very proactive. They were going to encourage us to take the journal from 2 issues a year to 3 and eventually to 4, and they offered us a very attractive financial package. So we went with Blackwell, now Wiley Blackwell as they're called, and we did take the journal up first to 3 issues and then finally by 2001 to 4 issues a year, 1 issue of which was a special issue which would then be published as a conventional book as well. So this was a considerable development from 2 issues a year which we'd done before. Of course, there were new themes beginning to emerge, and they were reflected in the journal. We could instance, for example, the philosophy of educational research, since research was now being emphasised so much more strongly in the university world. Themes like cosmopolitanism, the citizenship of the world, themes like neoliberalism, the advent of issues surrounding online technology, all of these were new, and naturally they had to be examined philosophically, and we tried to make sure that the journal looked at new issues like that, as well of course as still examining traditional problems, looking back and reassessing writers like Plato and Aristotle. Once again, continuity as well as development. I suppose one could talk of 3 obvious readerships. One is the academic readership, people who work in universities, in departments of philosophy or departments of education, or indeed other departments altogether. That's one sort of readership. Clearly policy makers, people who work in government, in local authorities and so on, may well be interested in the policy related issues that we pick up and talk about. And another big audience, potential audience, is that of teachers. But it's important to be careful here because all of these are themselves very diverse audiences. Just to take school teachers, there are 400,000 school teachers in England alone, and it would be very silly to make judgments about what they all do or don't want to read. The RAE, the Research Assessment Exercise, and its various iterations, has been actually very helpful for journals like our own, which are seen as prestigious sources for people to publish their work in. The report from the Research Excellence Framework, which finished in 2014, specifically mentions philosophy of education as not a large field of work, but a very high quality field. So this has all been good news for us, and will go on, I think, being good news for us.